good afternoon. Welcome to this session on decarbonization. Please take your seats. We touch upon AI, carbon, market efficiency, and unlocking our values. For me, it was a privilege to see His Excellency Minister Al-Faleh as he led the Saudi-US Investment Forum in Riyadh on the 13th of May. This exceptional program brought together public and private sector leaders for a purposeful alignment of US-Saudi interests. Afterwards, we studied the national investment strategy and we recognized the excellent progress being made in Saudi with respect to its goals. And these are complex issues, and there are things to be done. Since then, we have explored the following topics with oil and gas companies, petrochemicals, hyperscalers, SMRs, including therefore the demand and the supply side of energy, and financial groups on unlocking financial value for shareholders and enhancing market cap. And the three topics that we have come across have been artificial intelligence in terms of power and infrastructure, decarbonization, or carbon value creation as I often think of it, and market efficiency. Good afternoon. I'm the CEO of SafeRock, affiliated with the Board of Governors at Yale University, Columbia University, and the University of Chicago. I also have the privilege to serve as the co-chair of Global Sustainability for the American Chemical Society and NASA. I'd like to first start off from our distinguished panels with Manish, the Saudi Electric Company. Manish is the EVP of Strategic Planning and Chief Investment Officer at SEC. And he has spent close to 2 decades in the kingdom's power sector. Welcome, Manish.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to come here.
Yeah.
Thank you, FII, for this wonderful session.
Yeah. We had a wonderful discussion the other day as we were discussing this. And I want to turn it back to you and ask you, we talked about carbon and to value creation. And to truly accelerate that in terms of the private sector consideration that we have here, what does the private sector have to get right from what you're observing?
Decarbonization is not a solo act. The ecosystem, it's an ecosystem in motion. The private sector needs to get 3 things right. Stable policy, bold investment, and deep collaboration. If we align these 3 things together, you can move from transformation, you can transform from aspiration to acceleration.
Okay. Very good. That's a nice way of putting it. thinking acceleration to perspiration, but that's probably going to be out on the tennis field. Tell me about the stability portion of this.
In Saudi Arabia, policy stability has become one of our greatest catalysts for change. Under Vision 2030, our national target for 50-50 energy mix between renewable and generation energy is just not an ambition. It is a signal for private sector confidence. If we look at our regulatory framework balances between renewable energy integration acceleration,
Yes.
affordability,
Yes.
and investment certainty.
Extremely important topics.
If you look at other markets in the world, many countries struggle to get this right.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we look at electricity generation,
Yeah.
our electricity generation is transparent and performance-driven. We have competitive contracts with long-term PPAs, which give investors certainty to come and play in this market. We have, if you look at the grid side,
Yeah.
we are integrating at pace because of the stable policy. And if I give you some numbers, we have integrated close to 12 gigawatt of renewable energy into our grid. We have deployed 8 gigawatt hour of battery storage system and much more under deployment. So I would say stable policy is the invisible infrastructure behind successful energy transition.
Brilliant. And how about investment, capital investment, this heavy-duty, long-term investments? Talk about that.
At Saudi Electricity Company, we believe without technology, we cannot achieve decarbonization. Over the last 5 years, we have spent roughly $45 billion in our capital investment in infrastructure. Over the course of the future, we plan to target 70% of our investment into transmission expansion, modernization, renewable integration. We are creating digital twins. We are investing in high voltage DC networks. We are investing in AI to do optimization of our network. We are doing smartification of our network and distribution automation. We have achieved 100% smart meter network coverage in the country. We are poised to achieve 40% distribution automation by end of 2026, much ahead of our global peers.
How about the supply chain? It is stretched thin when you go up.
I'll come on the supply chain, yes. But just to point on why are we doing this? Why are we investing in modernization? Because we are creating a future intelligent energy data-driven ecosystem which will allow us to adapt the network and learn in real time to provide solutions. So again, decarbonization has to be mixed with innovation, technology, and intelligence.
Absolutely. Very smart. Talk about the collaboration part. You are doing so many other things besides that, such as localization and so on. If you would like to expand on that, perhaps a little?
Again, energy transition is a team sport. And private sector is the playmaker in this. So we need to have shared sense of value between customers, suppliers, and investors. When we talk about our suppliers, we are working together with our suppliers on the localization of key critical components and technologies in the kingdom. We have launched supplier mentorship program where we are working with them to unlock the deep industrial capabilities that we have with them. With our investors, we are issuing a lot of green debt.
Yeah, tell me about that. How is that going?
It has been great. We have issued a lot of green debt over the last 10 years, which has financed all this renewable energy integration.
Which markets have you done that in?
It's global markets.
Really?
Yes.
It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We were one of the first one in the kingdom to issue the first capital market green issuance.
That's very impressive. You're leading the world in many ways, right? Okay.
If we look at customers, we have invested in smart meters. We have 100% smart meter network.
Yeah.
We are investing in automation. We are doing that to get real-time insights and demand-side management capabilities so that we can allow our customers, not only residential and business, process alone. But larger set to do more efficient energy management.
Great.
So if we put all of these things together, we believe innovation drives affordability drives adoption drives decarbonization.
Congratulations, what a great statement. Thank you, Manish. Eric, if I may turn to you next. Right?
Please.
When I was speaking with you, I was asking you where your accent was from, and it was totally received. Totally received. But this is a wonderful start of a long-term friendship with us, right? Eric Greenwald is Chief Business Development Officer at VCM for Voluntary Carbon Markets, overseeing the organization's trading and consulting services, and plays a key role in establishing what is now the third largest carbon market globally. Before joining VCM, he spent the last decade at McKinsey & Company, where he advised a broad range of carbon market players. May I turn over to you, please?
If you may, let's take a step back to and why we're here, right? So one of the big paradoxes that this is trying to solve is the paradox of growth.
Yes.
We're beginning that once all people's mind across the globe is an opportunity. And again, from all the investors and decision makers and businessmen across
So you should be considered.
these things will lead to increased emissions versus what we have today. To find to move past that, because as it stands today, 2025, the world is massive flooding in the Pakistan. We have in California. This is
Absolutely.
in the GCC region, we're trying for a 60% increase into anything. This is getting faster than will be to work through. So to find through one of the main tools that we believe can be a big driver is carbon markets. We have to do everything to decarbonize, and the thing the big scale investments into green needs to be the priority. But we have to do something about the emissions that we still have today.
Absolutely.
Carbon markets come in. Across the world which reduce or remove CO2 emissions can be contacted and used to make a difference on the pathway to net zero. We'll continue to.
When we're talking about AI is our future. We will do that. We must also make sure to destroy our future, right?
The expected will be additional ones until it will be the same consumption.
Wow.
So these are massive long-term regulations which are a solution to.
Let me ask you about another thought that I really understand it. I think you're perfectly suited. You know, voluntary markets, market efficiency is very critical. These small places, early stages, is important to establish. Tell me about the impact of voluntary carbon markets in in Saudi, the efficacy of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Realizing that this was coming many years back in 2021, his the Crown Prince stated the need for Saudi Arabia to develop a carbon market, which the Public Fund Group was the country carbon market company.
Mhm.
And from a situation back then having no demand and no supply of carbon credits in Kansas City, we step by step been building this to have the largest and most important companies in Kansas City, including CC, participate in using carbon credits for part of the emissions that we have today. And these companies represent 65% of all of the corporate emissions in Kansas City.
Amazing. How long did that take to formulate?
So in 1,000 days, 1,000 days, we achieved 10,000 tons trade. So that's 10,000 tons of carbon credit every single day, which
Well, congratulations to you and your leadership. It's really a privilege to have you.
Of time in the kingdom.
Okay. Who he is. Christoph is co-founder and co-CEO of Climeworks, high-quality carbon removal and with expertise in air capture. And when I'm in Houston, I speak with all CEOs discussing this topic exactly. In 2023, he was recognized by Time as among the 100 most innovative leaders driving business climate change. Keynotes and spoken panels at high-level global events such as the World Economic Forum, Microsoft's CEO Summit, and for 3 years in a row, he was selected as the digital shadow by Swiss newspapers Business and Handelszeitung. Well, over to you now for an introduction on Climeworks.
And thank you for having me. So first of all, Climeworks, who is Climeworks? What are we doing? Climeworks is a global leader in high-quality carbon dioxide removal products. We are combining, as Shah said, we're combining 2 decades of experience in developing and scaling technology to pull carbon dioxide from the air, called air capture, with holistic ways of getting carbon back out of the atmosphere. So today, what we offer clients are diversified portfolios of high-quality carbon removal credits, ranging from best-in-class nature-based projects to technology-based projects. Climeworks to date is the only company that's operating a commercial facility technology to pull carbon dioxide from the air. You might have seen pictures. The facility is based in a different climate, in Iceland, cold and wet. Here it's hot and dry. And we are committed to further develop our technology and to further scale our technology in order to get the cost down. So far, we are trusted by more than 200 corporations globally and by governments to help them on their net zero journey and integrate carbon removal credits into the portfolio. Maybe zooming out, you might think, why on earth should we take carbon from the atmosphere? And I'm afraid to say that today in 2025, we already live in a world of overshoot. In 2024, for the first time, we cracked 1.5 degrees. So it's very sad. But last year, the average global temperature was 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial level. And we're living in a world of overshoot. We have too much CO2 in the atmosphere to make it to net zero. So carbon dioxide removal, together with carbon reduction, is needed in order to achieve net zero, and this is what we.
I think that's a great start. And let me ask you then, during the challenges of the last few years, as one pulls away from regulatory structures, right, into voluntary structures, as Eric you're dealing with, the questions about who's paying for what's being offered here. You have some thoughts. What's your experience been in this?
Yeah. Well, climate ambition might fluctuate. I think we are all aware. And looking at the broader sentiment, it might not invite you to think that climate is top of the agenda at all times. But as I alluded to in the intro, climate math, as I like to call it, or climate physics, are not negotiable. Like, there's too much CO2 in the atmosphere, and we have to get it out. So what we need is solution providers, like we are, what Eric is doing, what SEC is doing. And on the other hand, you need paying. Someone needs to pay for that, to your question. Who is paying at the moment? At the moment, we have more than 200 companies worldwide. They are buying carbon removal credits from us. How does that look like? It's like contracts over several years, fixed volume, fixed prices for carbon removal credits they're buying from us. Examples are Microsoft, JP Morgan, Boston Consulting Group, generally tech sector, professional services, financial services.
So you said you have 200 or so companies. So can you give some grouping sectors? That
so tech has been the pioneers, then professional services, financial services joined. Most recently, we saw hard to abate joining the journey, which is great, like British Airways, Lufthansa, some Japanese shippers, MOL, NYK lines, using the credits. We have more than 20,000 people, like private people, Bill Gates, for example, the band Coldplay using the service. So there's like voluntary demand to do that. Now, over the years, my expectation is, and we can have a discussion on that, is over the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see a transition from the voluntary to a compliance regime.
So you see that happening after, as you smooth run up from voluntary into compliance?
Yeah, well, it'll be a continuous process. We see first mushrooms to pop right now, like the European Commission is considering to implement carbon removals in the EU ETS trading scheme as of 2031. We see the same in UK, in Japan. So first, governments are having longer-term discussions around the overshoot and how to create frameworks in order to deal with that. So those will be the parties, so to say, paying more long-term.
Brilliant. I mean, really thoughtful analysis. Let's turn this over now into among us discussions, right? Because you have 3 experts who are truly knowledgeable, and it's a privilege for me to be here to help guide some of the discussion. Let's talk about something. Do you have any observations that you'd like to share or question each other on in terms of the sector and your involvement? Do you have some thoughts?
I think one thing I would like to mention, decarbonization is a journey, and it's a step-by-step journey. You have to do things which are sustainable, which are permanent. Now, if I draw examples that I remember from the past, 10 years back, when there was this big push about green energy transition, there were targets that people being pushed to meet. I remember when we were talking to financiers globally to finance gas-based projects, they had issues in financing gas-based CCGTs. And the explanation that we were giving them is that we are moving from liquid to gas. We are improving. We are decarbonizing. It is still a decarbonizing story. You have to build that story step by step. And you need to do things keeping in mind, again, I bring back the energy trilemma: affordability, reliability, security.
I think that's a great point. Eric, did you have lots of questions to share on this?
Well, I just wanted to make an observation on Christoph's point around the need for public and private to work together to make this work. And I think we're seeing some great steps in that regard globally, but also here in the region, where we've started off with a voluntary carbon market, and we've managed to make that the 3rd biggest carbon market globally by now. And I think that feeds very well into the efforts coming from the government to develop a mandatory market, which is going to come by 2028. But these things work together. So even in the mandatory markets, we're seeing in Europe, and I think we're going to see the same here as well, the use of carbon credits integrated into these systems.
Into the accounting system, into the payment system?
Well, for example, if your obligation as a company, you have 100 emissions, maybe you can meet 5 to 10 of those tons with carbon credits instead of the allowance.
So even included in reporting in a statutory manner?
Indeed, on the regulatory reporting side, I think that is also a key enabler to drive progress in this space. Where the need to disclose emissions for large companies, the need to disclose what kind of carbon credits and what kind of offsets. We've seen regulation in UAE, just live on that this year. And I think that's something we're going to see more and more of in the region as well.
So he's agreeing with you, because you said that it should be voluntary now, mushrooms popping up, and then it gets into a compliance structured
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Great. Do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to question them on or share?
An observation I'd like to share, like also going back to discussion here, I think listening to Eric or Manish, what I would like to convey is optimism. Like I'm very optimistic about what's like looking at the work that's being done with the VCM or SEC. Also for us this year has been a highlight year. Great achievements, reducing the cost, getting more clients to use this. Listening to the speech of His Royal Highness, the Energy Minister yesterday, was amazing. It's very energizing to see the track record. We are very proud. Like we have a pilot plant here in the country since a couple of months. So we are testing, as I mentioned, we have a plant in Iceland. It's cold and wet. Here it's very hot and dry. Yeah. So we need to test whether the technology is working, and it's working very well. And doing that in a setup which is generally very optimistic about what's to come is a very energizing and very positive environment. And that makes me confident that we can make it to net zero.
We need people like you to drive us, to make sure that we always stay on track. We have about 5 minutes left now. And I had asked each of our panelists to give a quick takeaway, if you will, 30-second, 45-second takeaway of either what they are asking as an imperative to do in their organization or that they wish to share with us. So let's get into that. Let's do it. Go ahead. Manish, would you want to start off with that first?
Sure. I mean, in the end, if I were to just look at the topic of our discussion, what is the private sector solution to decarbonization? I would say it is not choosing between profit and the planet. We have to create a shared prosperity that serves both. If policy is stable, technology is scalable, and collaborations work, then net zero is just not a target. It becomes a trademark.
That's a nice way of putting it. Great thoughts. All right.
Well, I think I would leave on the closing thought of being in Saudi Arabia, where we're in a country where 88% of people feel optimistic about the future. And I think we can really do something here with the carbon markets. We've seen over the past 3 years, but by establishing this, we now have 25 individual carbon credit developers coming to market because they believe in this and they see the potential for that. I think I just want to leave it a message of through the continued support of the private sector and of the public sector, we can really make a difference.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Please.
We need to have a longer-term discussion on the topic of the overshoot that I mentioned. We're living in a world of overshoot, and governments need to embrace that and need to have discussions around the topic of overshoot and then define frameworks on how to address it. We saw yesterday in the opening panel, cost of living is the main priority to deal with. Climate was ranked as 7. If we don't master the overshoot, like the cost of living will even explode more. Right? So this is my conclusion, and
I think this is a brilliant point. Now, of course, I have no conclusion to offer, but I do know that we face problems, right? And I think one of the big problems that I see in the Western markets, it was at the UN General Assembly discussions last year, and there was a topic of energy poverty, right? So are we dealing with, how do we address that? Also, that has to be a component, because when you talk about energy transition, right, where something has to be fully green or not, somebody who scrounges around to get wood, right, to do fire, there's some necessities of life that we have to deal with. I think that's on one end, that's one part. And the other part that I would share is that if we're talking about private sector activity, there does need to have a component which is responsible to the shareholders, because the private sector can go subsidized, if you will, in perpetuity. So they have to find ways to make that profitable. So I think you gentlemen are doing extremely important work. It's been a privilege for me to be here with you. Thank you, and please, audience, maybe congratulate our speakers. Thanks. You were great. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Great job.